here with Bradley Weiss in beautiful Western Cape. He's back home after an incredible year. Brad, thanks for joining us, man. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, anytime, man. It's great to be back home after a very challenging but successful year. So yeah, it's the sport of triathlon continues to develop and flourish. So it's been wonderful to be a part of it. And yeah, really looking forward to the future. But great to be back in beautiful sunny South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, you've just got back from a whirlwind tour. I mean, anyone who's following you knows you've had an incredible year. You are the exterior world champion 2 times. We've been through the emotion of Brad's arrived. I mean, you have arrived. We started in 2011 in a bike shop. We talk about it all the time. It's a darling story of hard work, perseverance, coming under Conrad and Dan and that era, and you've slowly gravitated across to the road. You're still very good off-road, but the big picture we all know has moved to the road. Kona, the full distance, you know, a lot of people don't transfer to the full distance. 42 Ks is a hell of a long way after 180 Ks
yes.
for anybody. And you've always had very, very strong running ability. You've got the right build, and we saw it. I mean, top 10 run overall at Kona, 17th overall, fastest ever South African time in Hawaii at the World Championships. You were 4th in Roth. You've won races. You've had an amazing year. I mean, we're super proud of you. As South Africans, honestly, darling story. Just such a great example of hard work, perseverance and self-belief. You've always had that confidence, and you've always said, I'm going to get there. And for those who didn't believe it, you certainly proved those naysayers wrong.
Thank you so much.
So here we are today. We're talking Puma. We've got the Deviate Nitro 2, a new shoe. I personally got the Deviate Nitro 1 for a Run Mag review about 2.5 years ago. First carbon plated shoe I'd ever had. First race I did, SA Champs, out of the box, 2 minutes faster.
Yeah.
And I mean, 25, 30 years of racing, I can tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's not random anymore. I'm a 44-minute runner off the bike over 10 Ks, and I ran a 42.
Yeah.
And my calves hurt later that afternoon because I was MC. And I remember thinking, there's something definitely different here, which is probably, you can't just pop in them and expect to be excellent straight away. There's
Sure.
clearly a different feeling. You are being projected forward.
Yeah.
So you've now got the Nitro 2 new version, the update, which you seem to love. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so I mean, just rewinding a little bit, this is now going into my 11th year sponsored by Puma. They've been the most supportive brand of my entire professional career.
Yeah, and the one brand that you've been with from day one, huh?
From day one, yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Starting back in that bike shop. So yeah, Puma have got a very close place to my heart. It's been wonderful to walk this journey with them within their performance running shoe range. When the Nitro range was released about 3 to 4 years ago, it was a really exciting time for just for runners in general, but specifically for me as a triathlete, having future goals of transitioning over to the full Ironman distance and having to run a marathon. I was pretty nervous about that. So having a company like Puma, who are investing heavily in the development and the space of performance running shoes, I felt like I was in just a really great space. Their first iteration was the Puma Deviate Nitro. As soon as I got the shoe, I did a lap of the local neighborhood. I was so excited, and immediately I could tell this is something different, right? I think anybody who's running a super shoe can tell you that it's just this wonderful experience of, wow, this is now different. And it definitely takes a bit of time to get the maximum out of the shoe. But from that first iteration, we've now come across to the Puma Deviate Nitro 2. They've increased it's a slightly higher stack height. The propulsion and the cushioning of the Nitro foam itself has been updated. There's a power plate. The traditional carbon plate has been accentuated and redesigned for maximum performance. And it's really, I can feel the difference between the two shoes already. I'm sure we'll get on to the Puma Fast Forward, which is a very disruptive and exciting shoe. When you see it on the shelf, it's almost like you take a step back, like, what am I looking at here? It looks super futuristic, and I wasn't too sure of how it would perform, but yeah, it's been amazing. And well, ultimately, it's how fast you run in
45 minutes, and then they're clearly not bad.
Ultimately, it's how does this feel in a race environment? And I mean, it's been mind-blowing. And I'm pretty sure I'm running 5 to 10 minutes faster than what I would in a traditional racing flat of old. And not to mention the the racing is one side of it, but the training is the other side of it, and that's where I really feel that the Deviate Nitro 2 is going to be a game changer. The support it offers within the training environment, the added cushioning, it just allows you to really get the most out of yourself in training. From
basically, it means you can run a whole lot further with less physical damage.
Exactly, and I mean, with the focus now shifting to Ironman, where we have to run a marathon, maybe race 3 full Ironman races a year, you're not actually racing that much. The majority of my time is spent training, and having shoes that are available to me in the range of the Nitro range, it allows me to really focus in on speed, and we'll get across to that now. Puma are releasing a really cool, funky, out there 5 and 10K specialist shoe, which is really exciting. But so for your track days, you can run in that, and then when you need something that's going to protect you a little bit more and give you a little bit more cushioning, they have that offering as well.
So tell us about a typical week of your running. Now, I know you do track, you train with Ernie Grun, and I mean, you Flora Duffy, you're running with the speedsters, but you're also doing a lot of mileage, and you're obviously, having biked and swum, your body's probably on the edge a lot of the time. How much running can you do now? I mean, obviously, this Nitro foam is super absorbent. There was a time when we all raced in racing flats, the next day you couldn't walk.
Exactly.
You did too much mileage, your body broke down. You're hearing guys now doing 100K weeks. What's a typical running week for you?
Yeah, so a typical training week for me consists of about 6 or 7 runs a week. I try to take one day completely off of running just to let the body breathe a bit and recover. But running through the week, Monday is normally a recovery run, anything from 10 to 12 kilometers, just super easy pace, running with the pram and giving baby a view of these beautiful mountains. Tuesdays, I run with Ernie Grun. He's got a running squad in Stellenbosch. We use the Marty's running athletics track. And typically on Tuesday, we'll do longer sort of aerobic intervals. So anything from 1 to 2 kilometer repeats. And
what would that add up to? How much mileage in a track session?
So we're not on the track for that day. We'll be on the gravel or out on the tar roads, or depending on the specificity of the session itself. But anywhere from a total volume of the session, including warm up and cool down, it'll be about 20 kilometers of running. Session itself will say be 8 to 10 times 1 kilometer repeats, let's say. So you're looking at about 10 to 12 kilometers of quality, but at a 4 to 5K warm up, 2 to 3K cool down, and you all of a sudden at 20 Ks.
Sure.
Wednesday again is a recovery run. We focus a little bit more on drills there, so 30 to 40 minutes easy, and then onto the grass fields, preferably get a little bit of softer surfaces.
Yeah, just to protect your body a little bit more. Eh?
Yeah, the biggest game changer with the Nitro range is previously, before we had access to these type of running shoes, I would be desperate after a 20K run session the day before to get just almost either take a day off or just like really be desperate to try and get onto some grass surfaces.
Get some massage or something.
Exactly, just to run the next day. Whereas now I feel like the recovery is just so much faster.
Could this perhaps be part of this whole game-changing environment of the super shoe? I mean,
yes, I believe the
runners are running so much faster.
Yeah, so we're seeing dramatic increases in time or decreases in time over the marathon distance, and I think one can be attributed to the performance of the shoe in the actual race on race day itself. But the other side of it is what it allows us to do in training leading into a racing block or a race, like an A race for the season. And I personally am running 10, 15, 20% further every week. We have a relatively conservative approach to my training volume. I mean, it's a really long season, especially with the addition of the PTO now in triathlon. Ironman have got all of their flagship events, Challenge have got their races, so you have to be quite selective around where you want to perform in the season, and it makes it quite tricky as athletes to focus on a training block and then a racing block, and then that's what I try and like to cycle out and use races, specifically the middle distance races, to prepare for these longer distance events.
So the volume is important to stay high. Obviously you keep your short, sharp, intense stuff for race windows when you've got a big race, but now that it's February to November, your volume has to pretty much stay high the whole year, in which case without the shoe you'd probably be breaking down.
Exactly, yeah. So we're seeing a lot less injuries. I think there's biomechanical differences that do bring in other type of small niche injuries, but overall the overuse injuries I think are definitely on the decline overall. It's definitely one of the biggest performance enhancers with this type of running shoe, is that it just allows you to take on so much more as an athlete.
And what's your take on the forward projection? I mean, it's clearly as we've seen with your racing R shoe, it's a serious rocker forward. But there were people in the beginning saying, oh, if you're a hill striker, these are not for you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a single person who's A, uncomfortable, and B, not going faster.
Yeah. A lot of people think you need to have the typical sort of Alistair Brownlee on your toes to take advantage of these type of shoes, but it's not that's not the case. And a lot of people think that the carbon plate technology is almost acts like a trampoline or a spring underneath your foot, that you need to be on your toes and bouncing along and you're going to look like a clown bouncing down the road. But it's really not the case. It's the efficiency and it's the ability of the shoe to absorb the impact and then transfer that energy into forward movement, and it allows you to run really efficiently and smoothly.
To roll through your stride like a wheel.
Yeah, and
which
also
is
exactly. So, and if every single foot strike is slightly less damaging over a 42-kilometer period, your breakdown throughout that 2 to 3 hours of running is far, far less. So you find yourself in the back half of the marathon. Everybody likes to say, you know, the marathon starts at 30 Ks. I've never experienced that. I mean, I've only started running marathons within the last year. I've been lucky enough to always be in Puma's super shoes. So it's been a different experience for me, and I haven't had that classical 30-kilometer hit the wall. And I think that is something that the shoes have really changed, and it allows you to really complete a 42 kilometers, but not to have this massive crash in the middle.
Yeah. So for the average person, there's always been kind of a thought of towards the end, your stride becomes uneven, you become unbalanced, you become dysfunctional almost in a way that maybe the shoe would then cause issues. But in fact, it seems like they are much more stable than the original. Perhaps when Nike brought out their Vaporfly or their Zoom or Next Percent, there was a sense that they were wobbly, and that once you are already an unstable, perhaps not efficient runner, then when you start running in your butt, they're going to become dangerous for you. But in fact, from what I've seen, people seem to be comfortable right through it, even the longer runs. So it's not like it was only for short, sharp runs. It's literally for an average person could run a marathon in a pair of super shoes.
Absolutely. And I mean, the development of the super shoe space has been it's been incredibly fast over a very short period of time. You know, the first iterations that companies like Nike brought to the market are obsolete now. You know, they're no longer competitive with the latest shoes, and I think all of the companies have now come to a very similar standard. And you are right in that the massive stack heights that we were seeing in the earlier days are not so much a thing anymore because of the demands of an Ironman for what we're using these shoes for. You're really tired by the time you get into hour 6, 7, 8 of a really long day, and the first iterations of the super shoes were really unstable, and it demanded that you have really good control over your extremities, and that you can not only land and make sure that this shoe stays stable, but then you can use it to the maximum and really be able to get the most out of it. Whereas now it feels like the shoe is an additional, it's a performance enhancer. There's no, I don't have to think about how to run in this shoe. It's just natural, and the development of specifically the foam itself, I think, is the biggest game changer. And the Puma Nitro foam is just, it's the best I've ever run in.
So stable, efficient from a design wise, obviously absorbent, shock absorbent. Bigger guys like myself, obviously critical. But then obviously the forward projection, the elasticity of it, which is combined with the plate, means we're moving forward. Hips forward, the famous running efficiency, the running style that makes Richard Murray, etc.
I think running is also such a confidence thing, in that, you know, when you're running, if you go out and you're having a good day on your feet, you just feel like, yes, this is cool. And you
your posture
all of a sudden start running better, and everything improves. Exactly. That's what I do feel like the shoes. You put them on your feet, you put a smile, it puts a smile on your face immediately. You walk down the road and you're like, yo, this feels cool. I actually want to run. So that's
it, as opposed to defensive running where you run in your butt and you're seated and you
put something on and it's a bit sore, and the impact from the tar. I mean, unfortunately, we spend a lot of time running on tar roads, which is a very unnatural surface for humans to run in, and we do it for a long period of time.
People doing ultra distance running obviously have to put in big miles and might not be as efficient as the rest. Again, perfect shoe.
Yeah, people focusing on the ultra distance, I mean, they really need every advantage they can get, and running in a shoe like this just makes all the sense in the world. Not only can they build up that weekly volume to a point where they can be competitive or reach their goals on race day, but it also just really, from an injury prevention standpoint, I mean, if you think about it, as an athlete, if you get injured leading into one of these events and you're out for, even if it's 3 to 4 days or a week, it's really impactful on the total volume of running that you've done in the 3 to 4 months leading into one of these races. Not to mention, not everybody is 60 kilograms like I am as an elite athlete. You know, you guys are coming in and doing these events closer to 100 kilograms, and that is really where the shoe's going to perform well, in my opinion. And that is actually the market that I think can get the most out of these type of shoes, and really to protect their knees and hips and ankles, and to really just enjoy running again. I mean, that's the reason we all do it, right? Is to put a smile on our face and enjoy it at the end of the day. So,
and they're fairly cost effective as well. Eh? I mean, they're not. There's some super shoes that are over $5-6 grand now.
Absolutely,
Puma's been pretty good price point.
Incredibly competitive on the pricing of their shoes, and it's a very difficult space these days. You know, to add a carbon technology into a running shoe drives the price of these shoes up extensively. So it's quite tricky for companies to market it and then retail it at a reasonable price. But Puma are by far the most affordable super shoe out there, and in my opinion, probably the most competitive one.